A recent clash between Chinese and Indian soldiers in South Tibet has caused wide concern in the world media. Indian media reports said there were casualties on both sides, with 15 injured on the Indian side. Both sides claim the area to be its own territory and station troops and weaponry in the area. In October 2021, a similar conflict took place in the area, which became a major flashpoint between the two countries. There has been no official confirmation from either side of the numbers and many details of the latest clashes. India's The Print newspaper said the clashes took place in the Tawang region, along the line of actual control, recognized by India government and military. Between 250 and 300 Chinese soldiers were involved, armed with barbed clubs, metal gloves and tasers. The report appeared to confirm that the Chinese did not use more lethal weapons, such as firearms. The report also said that only about 50 Indian soldiers initially clashed with Chinese soldiers, with both sides throwing stones at each other before escalating to the use of simple weapons such as clubs. The report also confirmed that there were no tasers on the Indian side. Since then, Indian reinforcements have arrived, outnumbering Chinese ones. The clashes left several people injured on both sides. Sources told the Indian media that Indian troops successfully neutralized the Chinese troops within 30 minutes, with more Chinese wounded. At least 15 Indian personnel were injured in the clashes, some with broken bones, the sources added. The Indian Army confirmed in a statement that the clash had taken place and acknowledged that a few personnel on both sides had suffered minor injuries. The statement also stressed that the two sides subsequently disengaged in the area. The statement also mentioned that as a follow-up to the incident, the Indian military commanders in the area met with their Chinese counterparts on the front lines and discussed in accordance with the previous consultative mechanism, with a view to restoring peace and tranquility. The Indian Army statement insists that there are certain areas along the line of actual control in this area where the two sides have different views, and as a result, both sides have been patrolling the area to their respective claims of the line of control since 2006. Sources said soldiers from at least two different units on the Indian side were involved in the clashes. Sources said the number of Indian troops in the vicinity of the line of actual control is for patrol and to act as a rapid response team so as to form no less than the number of Chinese troops when needed. At the same time, the Indian Army has deployed units along a second deployment line, one of the new deployments since the first outbreak of conflict in eastern Ladakh in 2020. In June 2020, a violent physical altercation between India and China in the Galavan Valley on the border triggered a series of frictions since then. At that time, in blatant violation of the consensus reached with us, the Indian Army crossed the line and tried to encroach on our territory. Our head Kai Fa Bao before the negotiation, the other side to fight, head Kai Fa Bao was seriously wounded, many people sacrificed. The Chinese responded forcefully, and according to some videos sent by Indian soldiers themselves, the Indian side suffered heavy casualties, but Indian officials insist that only 20 of their own men were killed. Multiple videos showing the capture of a large number of Indian soldiers have been tacitly accepted by India. Since then, the two countries have conducted negotiations and exchanges through various channels of communication, and the situation has gradually turned to relaxation until the outbreak of the conflict recently. It can be said that the conflict had proved that India could not take advantage of the Chinese side, and they were badly beaten after the surprise attack. It seems that there are still many people in India who have refused to learn the lesson or are trying to make further provocations for selfish gains. Some Indians do not have a clear understanding that China has the firm will and strong strength to safeguard territorial integrity and sovereignty. The Indian side is well aware that China has carried out targeted large-scale infrastructure construction on the China-India border, and the balance of power is clearly in China's favor. Some satellite photos released by Reuters and other media claim that China has significantly improved roads, airports, barracks and other facilities in relevant areas. Even the Times of India, which strongly supports India's official position, quoted Indian officials confirming that India cannot match China's border infrastructure and even used the phrase, "It needs all its efforts" to describe the difficulty of catching up with China. Finally, it is worth noting that India seems to have no intention of escalating or hyping up the military clash. The Indian government and military are no longer the first to publicly hype up the situation as they did in past conflicts. Instead, after the Indian media exposed the conflict, Indian officials quickly issued a statement pointing out that the two countries had communicated within the framework of existing mechanisms, with military commanders from both sides holding live talks. This shows that after nearly 3 years of conflicts and negotiations, the Indian authorities are for the time being in a position to resolve the conflict as peacefully as possible, which is a considerable improvement over India's performance during the initial Gallivan Valley conflict and also shows India's concern about China's powerful power.